It is Talking Reds. Happy Wednesday from Liverpool City Centre. I am John Gibbons and I'm joined by Josh Sexton and by Mo Stewart to talk to you about a big week. What could be a big week. It's been a big season. We're going to talk a little bit about the Champions League games, the one last night, which involved a Premier League team playing against the team who knocked us out of the Champions League. So always going to be an interesting one, that. And of course, Arsenal Real Madrid, which has got loads of connotations all over the place from a Liverpool perspective too. And it means a little bit for them teams playing as well, probably. Who knows? We've also got news coming up today of the Red Weekender, which we're delighted to be involved with. So you can come and see the Anfield Wrap on the Saturday night, which should be absolutely brilliant, but absolutely loads going on across the weekend. I think Mo's having a little go at some point as well. We'll find out live on that. But yeah, the main place I want to start, Josh, is the fact that we could win the league on Sunday, and that's really exciting. The fact that it's possible in April is a brilliant thing. I'm not going to be too disappointed if we don't, but I'm going to be pants on head very in multiple cities if we do.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously we've got to sort of work out the work permutations as much as just the pants on head permutations. The pants on head permutations, I'm very on board with. Like I can't even like bring myself to think of like the first world problems that having my undies on my head by Sunday night could bring. And obviously it's Easter Sunday, so going into Easter Monday, that would be a lovely like way to celebrate the bank holiday too. The work permutations are the thing that's making me go a little bit first world problems about it. Like I could just do without it happening on Sunday, and there is also a part of me that like wants it to happen in Anfield too, but the idea that like it could even happen this weekend, I think just speaks the most to like the consistency we've shown this season, because I know we're going to come on to talk about it, but there was a moment in Aston Villa PSG last night where I was almost thinking of like a tweet in my head where if Aston Villa beat PSG, I'd just be like, the Reds are not worthy, but we'll still win. Because that's what everyone's been saying, haven't they? Everyone's been saying it's a shit league. Everyone's been saying Liverpool are not sort of worthy champions, or some of the worst champions that they've ever seen. But I actually think the fact that we're here at this point speaks to the fact that we're some of the best champions the Premier League's ever seen. To be honest, it's the 16th of April and we're already sat here talking about the very real possibility that Liverpool could win the league this weekend.
Yeah, it is that consistency and the lack of consistency from others that makes Sunday feel possible, because on paper Arsenal should get something from Ipswich, and then so that makes our game against Leicester irrelevant in terms of winning the league on that day. Obviously it's not irrelevant because of you're getting the points that you need to do it at some point over the next couple of weeks. But the fact that we're saying, well, maybe Arsenal won't, that is because they've dropped points in 47% of their games so far this season. Consistency, they've been fantastic some weeks. Fair play, they were brilliant against Real Madrid last week. They've had some great league performances, not least a 5-1 against Manchester City, but they've also been a bit rubbish plenty of times, and that's why they're miles behind us. And so it does mean that Josh's best dreams / worst nightmares are very possible on Sunday.
It's mad, isn't it? Because like you think about the criticism that Liverpool have taken for some of the results and some of the performances in recent weeks. Like even the West Ham game is a really good example. A lot of people saying, "Oh, well, that second half was not the performance of champions." Arsenal lost at home to that same West Ham team, and we won. Like that is the bottom line here. Like you talk about who's good and Liverpool crawling over the line. Liverpool have won 5 of the last 6 games. And Arsenal have certainly not. Arsenal have not won more than 3 games in a row all season long. And I think we have to keep remembering that it might not look as pretty as it was in our minds, but the fact is that Liverpool are getting the job done.
But also, by the way, like 90% of teams either crawl over the line or crawl through like January or February or something. We've just had our perception warped to what a league title win should look like by City, who are 115 charges Manchester City.
Yeah. Where are they, by the way? 20 points? Yeah, we don't need to talk about that. But in terms of the when, like, I was very much team, let's do it at Anfield, let's do it in front of the crowd, let's do everyone together, the big, fantastic moment, the whole city alive. And then I managed to get accreditations for the Leicester game. And suddenly I'm a little bit less, I'm a little bit more blasé about it. It's like, I'm going to be there either way, I think I'll be all right. No, in all seriousness though, I do think that there's an element to, there has been some nervousness amongst people. We are still in a situation where for a long time it's been, well, the logic says it's going to happen, but until it happens, you just don't know. There's still that kind of nagging doubt. So there's a part of me that's like, get it done as soon as possible so we can have all of that doubt eliminated. But I do still think it would be fun doing it for our home game against Spurs. Hiya, Dad.
What's the code of conduct for undies on head in the Leicester press box mode? Well, have you looked into that?
So I've actually got some.
Looking at Neil Jones. If you go, I'll go.
So I've actually got some friends who work for Leicester City in their media department, and without outing them, I know one of them is also a Liverpool fan. So I'm hoping if in the best case scenario, he has like a private room that we can go into where we can just do a little bit and then come back out.
I love that. I love that. And all these on Headspace, secluded, private, safe undies on Headspace. Absolutely love that. Let us know in the comments, by the way, if you think it is possible on Sunday. Give me a percentage, whatever it is you want a league title win is on Sunday. But because the interesting thing is, obviously Arsenal play tonight, and either way, I think tonight's gonna take a lot out of them. I've seen Real Madrid have tweeted every translation possible of 90 minutes is a long time at the Bernabeu, which is quite interesting. You know, they're either way. 90 minutes is a long time at the Bernabeu, and you can't see them cruising through it. I mean, listen, they might just go and have a lovely night in Spain, and fair play to them if you do. But I think they'll get through. But the most likely scenario feels like that they go through, but it's hard. Like at some point it all gets a little bit nervy, and they need to put a big shift in, a big defensive shift in, which is the hardest kind of shift. Attacking's great fun, but you know, and then. So either they do go out, in which case fucking hell he wants to go to Suffolk on Sunday, or they go through and it's still a little bit he wants to go to Suffolk on Sunday, and so I think like tonight's game does come into play for us. I think in terms of the possibilities.
Yeah, I think it did against Brentford in a way that I probably didn't necessarily expect, because I didn't necessarily expect the first leg to go the way it went. Like the overriding feeling I had off the back of the first leg really was that I think this Real Madrid team might just be too chaotic for a team like Arsenal, who, you know, we've sort of joked all season, haven't we, that they're like the Stoke on steroids, and they're all these different things. But I think what they are is a really regimented 11. They're a team who's able to, you know, fight for set pieces. And, you know, listen, you can have all the set piece coach in the world if you want, but if Declan Rice is bending one in from that's about 10 yards outside the post as it's going in, or hits one right in the postage stamp, then like you can fuck your set piece coaches. To be honest, that is all on Declan Rice's sheer quality for me. But that shows the level of play that we're still dealing with here at Arsenal, and that was the thing again. Coming away from it was, I thought, you know, people were calling this Arsenal side shit, including me, for a lot of this season. But I think when they come up against a team who is sheer chaos, and it's not a team who's just seeing Arsenal or the teams that see Liverpool as a scalp week in, week out, and, you know, almost make Arsenal do the thing that Arsenal are doing to Real Madrid, you can see how good a team that Arsenal side can be. So I can see the second leg playing out in a similar way in terms of not necessarily the goals as such, because I don't think Arsenal will show the same level of ambition really to go and score against Real Madrid. I think it will be more so just that sort of, you know, solid defensive performance, resolute, I should say, defensive performance, and then I think Madrid will probably get one or two, and that will make it a bit nervy, like you say. But I'd be very surprised if Real Madrid were to come back tonight. But they've surprised me multiple times before. I just think that Ipswich game is at the weekend becomes a little bit of a non-factor for Arsenal either way. Really, like they might be. You know, if they go out tonight, it might be the next game at the Emirates or something that is the one they go, all right, let's rally now. But you know, in the same way that when we went out to PSG, I think it emotionally, you know, fucked us really for the League Cup final. I could see the same happening tonight, where, you know, if they go out to Real Madrid, it will emotionally fuck them for Ipswich. Ipswich may be able to get a little scalp there, albeit like the one thing I agree with Neil on is that I do think this Ipswich side are a terrible outfit. I just think Chelsea might be even as terribler. So I could see a world in which Arsenal go into it with a couple of heads down at the weekend, but I could see a way in which, you know, the quality just tells both on Sunday but also on the night tonight.
Yeah, there is a way that Arsenal turn up on Sunday, don't play great and get something out of it, because Ipswich have struggled for a reason. They've struggled, in particularly, as Neil pointed out, sort of late in games. So Neil was saying, listen, if Ipswich are 1-0 up on 80, don't be surprised if they get beat, because that's been a bit of a sort of a thing for them. But so there's ways that Ipswich can throw it away anyway. There's ways that Arsenal can win playing at 60-70% or not at sort of full capacity. But it is an interesting one, isn't it? How do you see tonight's Arsenal game going, and how do you see that maybe having an impact on the attitude, application, or just energy levels on Sunday?
It's fascinating though, because what Arsenal probably aren't going to do which is what PSG did last night, which is go out and think we're going to score. We're going to increase our leads. We're going to go and score there, and we're going to try and completely take any belief out of the opponents straight away. I mean, It didn't work, as I'm sure we'll come on to. But that was what you'd expect most teams in Arsenal's position to try and do, to say, okay, we're going to attack. Attacking's still not their strong suit.
No.
Defending is their strong suit. I actually think they quite like defending. So I think in their mind, they're like, okay then, Mr. Real Madrid, you think you can come back and score 4 against us? Let's have a look and see how well you do. And they'll just bore it. I would not be surprised if this game ends 0-0 or 1-0 to Real Madrid. I really wouldn't. The thing about Madrid, we've seen a couple of times in this season, early in the group stage in Champions League, I think against Dortmund, they were 2-0 down and then they came back with a rousing performance in the second half. I think that's the only time we've really seen that from them this season. They haven't really been that kind of, we're going to bowl you over with a tidal wave of white and you're not going to know where to look or where to stand. We haven't really seen that from them since then, really. So I don't know how much they have that in them. They're talking a good game, which they always do. But the reality on the pitch, as Josh says, they're chaos. Arsenal can deal with that kind of chaos. So I wouldn't be surprised if this game is really boring. I'm going to be watching Bayern Munich against Inter, by the way, just so you all know. I wouldn't be surprised if this game's boring. 0-0, 1-0, Real Madrid, whatever. Arsenal will get through and they'll be happy to get through. However, I agree with Neil, sadly. I don't think Ipswich have it in them to do anything. Even because the other thing you have to factor in the fact is that Ipswich haven't really got hope. Wolves are, 12 points up the road and winning games?
I don't even think the Wolves are so West Ham are 17th now.
Of course,
So West Ham are the sort of the nearest one. So that's the problem, isn't it, for Ipswich, is that you could talk yourself into getting 12 points from the last sort of few games if you want. But the idea that the teams above just aren't going to get any or aren't even going to get one win is impossible to imagine. Because the problem is that all the teams who are most of the teams who were 17 to 14, with the exception of Spurs, are all quite good.
yeah, exactly. And all have the ability to be good for one 90-minute period out of the next 5 or 6. So, I don't know. You think about, they haven't really been very good at home. I think they've only won, 2 games at home all season? And so you can think that maybe this is their last big home game as a Premier League team. Yeah. They haven't really done, or they had the Chelsea win, they haven't really done much of that. So maybe they're going to go down swinging and give them one last thing to remember from the Premier League run. But it's a long shot.
If you're Liam Delap, though, and you've often been compared to Josh.
Don't say that, because he's a cart horse, honestly. I think if anything, I'm not a cart horse. I'm a wee party boy.
But he's a cart horse with something to prove. It's interesting he doesn't start against Chelsea. Apparently, he hadn't really trained that well in the week. There was a bit of talk that, maybe he's had his head turned, but I think it was more of a fitness thing. But he knows that all eyes are on him at the moment, and everyone will be watching, and I reckon he'll be banged up for it. And he's the kind of player who can make something happen on his own.
I love how you're either trying to play devil's advocate here or just talk yourself into this. You're doing the Gutman thing of but have you thought about this though, Josh?
Have you thought about this?
Listen, I think it's as likely as any sort of puncher's chance the Premier League has thrown up this season. The issue for me is that I think you've seen it in the literally just the sheer points gap between the 3 teams who've come up and the rest of the lads. Basically, I think it's going to become an issue for the Premier League over the next few years. We're now on the 2nd season in a row where the 3 teams who've come up are going to go straight back down. I think that gulf in quality from the teams coming up from the Championship to the rest of the Premier League is so extreme, because as Mo said before, that West Ham team that came to ours at the weekend is 17th place. I can't believe that, because I was looking at Kudus and Lucas Paqueta and stuff like that and being like, these lads should be playing for top 4 teams, genuinely, and they're languishing in 17th, but they're languishing because they're 20 odd points ahead of the lads who are in the relegation zone. And I think that West Ham are obviously building towards a sort of project that goes on into the future. I think if you're Ipswich, listen, there's pride to play for here. There's not going down in April to play for. I just think that gulf between where Ipswich are and where Arsenal are is so extreme. It's a chasm between them and a team like West Ham anyway. Between them and Arsenal, it's the Grand Canyon effectively. I know they gave Chelsea a bit of a torrid time at the weekend. I think that probably will take a lot out of them as well. To be honest, I know it's only 1 game a week, and that's what any Premier League team should play for. But that's where I sort of come back to the idea that like this Ipswich side aren't really a Premier League team. They're a team who's come up from the Championship, who's going to go straight back down to the Championship. They'll have sort of, almost busted their flush against Chelsea in a way, and I could see them just really toiling against Arsenal, but Arsenal just managing to, a Mikel Merino goal off his arse, something along those lines, and it's 1-0, and they'll probably have a sort of similar thing go for them tonight, where Real Madrid are toiling for ages, but don't quite manage it, because the Arsenal side is just dead hard to break down. They're so much harder to break down than that Chelsea side is. That Chelsea side is actually like almost in a similar mould to Real Madrid, really, and it's a penny for Trent Alexander-Arnold's thoughts, I would imagine, going into this game tonight, especially, where I'm looking at this Real Madrid team and the chaos they provide. I'm wondering if actually like they've just gone a little bit over the edge of like soulless Galacticos again, rather than like the team that we lost to in Paris the other season, who I think were already on their way there, to be honest. But they still just had enough heart and enough togetherness in that team. I think they might have just done one Kylian Mbappe, and then maybe they're about to do one Trent Alexander-Arnold too many, where the chaos is all well and good, and maybe it would just be a cycle of managers from here, like we've seen so often Real Madrid. But it's just going to be one Galactico too many, effectively, and they just turn out to not actually be very good.
Well, it's interesting, and I noticed with regards to PSG, someone tweeted, I can't remember who it was tweeted, but it's out the last 6 years they got to the Champions League semi-final 4 times, which is really good, by the way. But the 2 years they didn't was the years they had Mbappe and Messi and Neymar.
It was Julian Laurent.
Oh, yeah, of course it was. The godfather of French football himself. Yeah, which is a crazy stat. First of all, fair play to get the 4 in the last 6. That shows a remarkable level of consistency they're not credited for. But the fact that the 2 that they didn't is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. The other fascinating thing is that they got there 4 times. They got to 1 final.
Yeah.
They lost,
and that was
3.
The COVID one as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a bit weird.
Last year they lost to Dortmund when they were favourites in the semi-final, and I think there was an element of them not really having a proper identity for a lot of those times. So they had the talent, they had quality, they could win big games. So like they beat Barcelona in the quarterfinal the season before, when Dembele was on his like revenge tour. But then when they were favourites, they couldn't handle it. Whereas this season, they have got an identity. They are this young, hungry, up-and-coming side. They've got Hakimi and they've got Marquinhos, who are kind of the older heads, but everyone else are these young tyros desperate to show themselves, or Dembele as well, of course. And you look at the way that they dealt with that big rush from Villa last night, where it looked like Villa were going to push the door down, but they never quite did. They held out. They were able to just calm it down a bit, keep possession for a while, take the sting out of Villa. That was a very mature way of dealing with that situation. And that tells me that this team is more ready to deal with all of that stuff than previous teams. And
do you think there was any level of complacency there last night, Mo? Because that was the thing I kept sort of thinking watching it, to be honest, was like that PSG team I think was so focused for about 179 minutes, I would argue, rather than the full 180 against Liverpool over the 2 legs. And it was almost like when they won at Anfield, it was such a big scalp for them. They were messing about with PSG flags on the centre circle and things like that. I wondered if last night they were going into it because everyone was going, oh, PSG will steamroll Aston Villa, and almost believing their own hype a bit.
I don't know about that. What I would say is they probably thought it was done when they were 5-1 up on aggregate. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And then you look at the 2 goals that Villa scored to make it 2-2 on the night. One was a deflection.
Yeah.
One was a shot that John McGinn is frankly never going to hit again in his whole life. And you think, if you're PSG, you're thinking, bloody hell, how the hell have they got back to 2-2 from here already? And so then there's the period where Villa really put the pressure on. It goes 3-2, and suddenly you can see them looking around each other and thinking, like, how have we got here?
Yeah.
But then, as I say, they kind of kick themselves out of it. And I think dealing with us at Anfield and all of what that entailed, and then dealing with this, they're kind of learning. They're building the muscle memory to be able to deal with the heat of Champions League competition. So
Villa Park sounded amazing last night.
It did. Yeah. It really did.
Yeah.
And you suspect if it's Arsenal that they're playing, then the Emirates will be the same.
Absolutely.
And they've already been there once this season and they got beat, but it was a very different PSG team to the one that is now. Dembele wasn't playing. Kvaratskhelia wasn't even at the club. So that's 2 guys already to add into the mix. I just think that they are now looking like a team who believe that they can do all the things that the previous versions of them didn't. I still don't think they'll win, though.
What do you make of last night's game? Because So at some points I was like, oh, if we'd have only been able to get at PSG a bit more, maybe we could have rattled them. But then, like Mo says, I'm sure we'd have loved a deflected goal. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those, isn't it? Like sometimes it is something like that, a deflected goal and a blammer that changes a whole game, and you can't sort of say, oh, well, we should have just done that.
Yeah, I just think the dynamic of last night's game was so different. It's why I posed that question to Mo, really, because there were times where I was watching it in the game being like, this PSG side looks way more ragged than they ever did, like at any point. Even when Harvey Elliott scores his goal in the away, like they didn't look necessarily ragged for that. I wouldn't say. I'd just say it was a really cutting Liverpool move with a couple of fresh legs on the pitch. I just wondered watching it last night if basically it's similar to what I said about Arsenal before. Like the way Arsenal set up is perfectly catered to Real Madrid. The way Liverpool set up is perfectly catered to beating 90% of the Premier League in the way that I don't think like beating Arsenal is. It's a really like, you know, fighters styles, like horses for courses kind of thing, isn't it? And I just wondered if last night Villa was set up in a way where, you know, PSG picked them off early, which sort of disproves this theory. But for a lot of it, Villa are, you know, just a counter-attacking football team. We've seen that a lot in the Premier League. They are a team who I think can switch it up, and I think you saw that when we went to Villa Park. They're a team who, you know, are just as good in the ascendancy as they are in the descendancy, and that's what I think makes Unai Emery such a special manager, really. But I do wonder if last night actually PSG came up against a style of team that they're not necessarily catered to being good against, whereas Liverpool, they found a way to sort of exist against Liverpool, and you know, we're able to, you know, be so effective with the flying wingers and things like that in a way that I think Villa are so used to dealing with, because, you know, 90% of the Premier League is counter-attacking flying wingers and things like that. And, you know, Liverpool I think have been good at dealing with that in the Premier League this season, but when it's, you know, it's Desiree Doué and Moussa Dembele and players like that, Ousmane Dembele should say, sorry, and players like that, it feels like a whole different level, really. So I almost don't know what I can draw from it and compare to Liverpool game. It's why I'm sort of almost like flailing around a little bit with the answer. But I just think, I think it's probably like a styles make fights kind of thing for me. And at no point was I looking at it being like, oh, this is what Liverpool could have done differently. I basically just looked at it and thought, I wonder if PSG have just mentally approached this differently. Yeah, no,
it was a completely different game and a set-up. And like Mo said before about the idea of, you know, switching from the bit of the underdog to a bit of the favourites. And, you know, that mental switch is an interesting one, but I just think from PSG's point of view, like you said, they have come through it.
Yeah.
Now, so they've come through some big tests. So they come through. They won at Anfield, which was obviously huge. They needed to after losing the home leg. So they've come through the disappointments of that. Come back to Anfield, put in a really good performance. They've won a penalty shootout. They've had the rocking bit of Aston Villa and got through the end. So the manager is able to tell them, listen, whatever these people are throwing at you, you can sort of deal with it. And so that kind of thing can, we've seen it before, can take you through straight to a final.
I think so. And I think even, as I said, it coming up against an Arsenal team who beat them in the first game, I think they can use that as fuel, because I remember that game, and I don't even think Arsenal played fantastically. I just think that PSG were a little bit lost in how they approached the game, because Dembele had been dropped for disciplinary reasons. So it wasn't like he was injured or anything, and I think that probably had a bit of an effect on the squad. They didn't really feel like they had that attacking impetus. Like Barcola at that stage in the season was still a little bit in and out. They were still playing Gonzalo Ramos a few times, so they hadn't really found their way of playing, their way of getting forward. And I don't think Fabian Ruiz was playing in that game either. They just look a very different proposition now. Whereas Arsenal will probably try and play the same way they did in that game.
Yeah.
And so for Luis Enrique, he can say, well, look, we aren't going to let them do that this time. And I just think that they can take, like I say, from what I said, they can take the bonus from having done that before, having been in that atmosphere, because it was a Champions League group stage game, but it was a big game for Arsenal. So there was a big atmosphere, and it's going to be a similar kind of thing when they go there in the semi-final. So I think that they've got it in them to do it, to get through to the final. I would say, in terms of the final itself and who gets there, if they're playing against Barcelona, then not only have they got a good chance of winning, but that would be one hell of a football game.
Yeah.
If they're playing against Inter Milan, they probably aren't going to win.
You think?
I think Inter will.
Styles make fights and all that.
Yeah.
Well, listen, there's a long way to go before then, so we'll see who goes through tonight, and we'll see how those semi-finals shape up. But I think there is an interesting knock-on effect, certainly for Arsenal's game tonight. in terms of what's going to happen on Sunday. But anything in the comments? Any people who are not fridges like you and Mo?
There's a couple of fridges, to be honest. Tom Darby's been on. He says, I know Tom Darby's been on. He says, I hate these games. Just get them won and done. Hashtag 20. I just think if you can't enjoy this, and then what are you in it for? You honestly, like, we're going to win the league. It's going to be fine. Just try and enjoy these games as much as you can, because there's no real jeopardy. It's all black jeopardy that you're putting in your minds. There's Retro Unlim says, I just want Lego Head to do the Guard of Honour, which I'm absolutely all for. If we can get it won before the Arsenal game, I'm very much for that, which is why I would like it to be against Tottenham. Avo Third says, beat Leicester and relegate the Tory bastards, and then Tottenham to win the league. And Spurs fans wouldn't mind that either. I am quite intrigued to see how Spurs fans would react if we do end up lifting.
They'll join the party.
Yeah,
they'll absolutely join the party.
I'm absolutely thinking the same. There were a few sound issues earlier in the Talking Reds as well, so apologies for those. Ash was in the comments there doing loads of tech help with a couple of people. We believe they're sorted now. So nice. Yeah, it was very turn it off and on again. So nice one for bearing with us through those. And yeah, I think that's about it. Stuart Carter said, slow down, Josh. So nice one for my dad jumping in the comments there. But besides that, I don't think there is anything else. Keita Mystery agrees with Mo. Had Inter Milan winning the CL right from the off. I watched them against Bayern. I agree with you on watching that game tonight. I thought that first leg was absolutely brilliant. So that'll be the one that I have my eyes on tonight, I think. And yeah, besides that, Liverpool win the league and that.
I was watching there's a BBC series of how to win the Champions League, and they had the Jose Mourinho episode in which he covers him winning with Inter in 2010. And if anyone interested in football, European football, go watch it, because Jose obviously has a very high opinion of himself, but it's fascinating. It really is fascinating. The way that they navigate the rounds and the different psychology of different players needed for different games, and you just knew that in certain teams, against certain matchups, I'm going to need you, and then against him, I'll need you, and they'll all had their little moments to be superstars. And I think that this current Inter side are very similar. Like, if you look at Martinez, you look at Thuram, you look at Çalhanoğlu, or even DeMarco or Dumfries out wide, they've all got the ability to be the star for that game, and depending upon who they're playing and who they're up against.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating tournament. It's a shame that Liverpool aren't still in it, but there is number 20, hashtag 20, as your man said there, to win. Possibly on Sunday. Listen, if the Anfield Wrap know how there's a party potentially happening, we are going to be there, so we're going to cover Sunday best we can across two different cities and across different permutations to sort of see what happens. So obviously we'll be at the game, obviously we'll be at Leicester, and straight after the game we'll be doing content regardless of whether Liverpool have won the title or not. There'll be stuff going on back in Liverpool as well, and all the build up of course to that on the Anfield Wrap as well. There'll be reactions to the press conference, which we think is on Friday, but we're not quite sure at the moment.
Yeah, not sure at the moment.
Yeah, but there'll be reactions to the press conference, there'll be pre-match warm-up, there's an overview, so if you want some pedal, if you're a pedal fan, listen to that. I couldn't find a release for that, by the way. Do you know when that's out?
When's this, sorry?
The overview.
The overview, I'm not sure, it might be next week. Who knows?
Well, we talked a lot about this weekend, so it should be out this week. So let's just sort of try and figure that out.
Admin live on air, John. It's out tomorrow. It's out tomorrow.
It's out tomorrow. Chill out, everyone. It's out tomorrow. So there you are. So you got an overview tomorrow. You've got loads looking ahead to the next week or so, and you've got loads looking ahead to Liverpool being crowned Premier League champions. We just don't know quite when yet, but we do know it's going to be a fantastic last weekend in Liverpool as well. Of course, I know lots of you are coming to the city if you don't live here. Obviously, for those of us who do live here, we're looking for celebrations, we're looking for parties, and there is absolutely loads going on. And something that's been announced today that we are involved in is the Red Weekender. So it's at the Exhibition Centre. It is all weekend. Friday night, you've got Rafa Benitez in conversation with Kenny Cates and Jamie Webster, which should be brilliant. Lightning Seeds playing there as well. Saturday daytime in the Exhibition Centre, you've got Redmen TV recreating Family Fortunes with Les Dennis, the Dalglish family playing there as well against Redmen. So that should be a good laugh. There's music involved in that as well. Zootons are playing, and then Saturday night we are in the auditorium. So we're absolutely made up with that. We wanted to do something in the auditorium at the Exhibition Centre for ages, but couldn't quite make it happen. So grateful to Red Weekender. So it's going to be one of the most spectacular spaces we've ever done a live show in. If you've not seen that auditorium, it is a real wow room, and we're absolutely made up to be in there. So we're going to be doing a great Anfield Wrap live show in there. Tickets are only £20 plus booking fee if you get them at the moment for us on the Saturday night, which is a bargain. They've tried to keep it as low as possible, even with obviously the space and the cost of doing it, just to get as many of us there as possible, because it is a celebration for everyone. And that's the great thing about these weekends, where there's going to be a parade on the Monday and there's going to be sort of celebrations and things going on. You know, some people can get tickets, some people can't. And that's just the way it goes with the amount of people that Anfield holds. But that weekend, there should be something for everyone. And we'd love to see as many of you possible on the Saturday night at the Red Weekender. So if you go on to, there should be a link in the blurb. There should be a link in the blurb on this that we'll be able to sort. But if you go on our Twitter or have a search for the Red Weekender, it should be across social media at the moment. You can buy tickets today if you register with the exhibition centre or with the arena. So if you go onto that link, just fill in your details and you can get tickets today. Or if you don't want to do that for whatever reason and you wait till tomorrow, we'll be sending out the links for our shows there as well. But there is a pre-sale today. Tickets, if you're quick, just £20 plus booking fee for us on the Saturday night. Then there will be a lot of people asking about the match on Sunday. They will be showing the match in there, so that'd be a great place, obviously, to watch the game. If you can't get a ticket and you do want to watch it with a large number of people all celebrating together, then that'll be a decent option for you. There's Boss Kids before that, which I know is always Jamie's favourite gig to do. Loads of kids screaming very high, I mean, he absolutely loves. And then there's stuff going on the Monday as well. I know you're going to be involved at some point, Mo. Do you know when yet?
Not officially yet. So there's talk that I will be doing some stuff after the match on Sunday evening. That one has not been fully announced as yet. And then Monday, I'm going to be in and around doing there's a few things that we're still trying to sort out, but yeah, if you're there for the whole weekend, particularly Sunday and Monday, you will definitely see my face. It's a shame I've actually double booked by the Anfield, the club themselves booked me like a couple of months ago for that Saturday night to do the supporters club gig, the Black Tie Fancy Dinner, so I'll be DJing there. But I've tagged in a very able deputy to come in on the decks. And I've also been giving him lots of help, lots of tips on exactly what kind of songs to play. So, yeah, bombard Mr. Dan Morgan rather than me for a change.
Yeah, we got a little after party at the exhibition centre after our show, which is very cool. So normally everyone sort of goes off in different directions and we try and meet somewhere wholly inappropriate. The number of people we've invited. But this time we all get to hang around for an hour or so. And Dan Morgan's DJing, like Mo says, we could all go into a room and you can tell me how good I was on stage. What a joy for you. That will be. And I'll go and stop and pretend that I want to hear it. I really, really do. So that'll be a nice experience for everyone. So yeah, it's going to be a brilliant weekend. So if you come and do get your tickets to see us on the Saturday night, do look at those other shows as well. It's all sorts of separate tickets, but as I say, Saturday day, Sunday, Friday night, Monday, whatever it is, the sort of grabs here. There's loads going on across the weekend, of course. So just enjoy it, and we're happy to be another thing, another option for people that people can enjoy. I think that is everything.
I think so, yeah.
Thanks a lot for your comments. Thanks a lot for enjoying this Talking Reds. Thanks for bearing with the sound issues, and obviously thanks a lot to Josh and Mel and to Ash for filming. And as ever, up there, it might be Sunday, don't be a fridge.